games in close succession. What's the injury situation on?
I think Federico didn't train again this morning, Fernandez. So, but apparently big improvement. Wayne Routledge did train today. So as far as I'm aware, I think we're okay. Frank is training as well, Frank Tabanu. Although again, it's going to take him a little while. Eder joined in today, the first time. But again, he's probably looking at the Oxford game for him. But that's it really. I think apart from Federico, he is the only one slight concern. But hopefully he'll be okay for the weekend.
What's the problem then?
He had a bruised heel.
So you think he's a doubt for Saturday?
No. I think he's probably got a good chance. But he didn't train today. But hopefully he'll need to do something maybe tomorrow. Certainly he'll need to train by Friday anyway to give him a chance to play. But I mean, we adapted. Obviously, Jordi came in and did exceptionally well until he sort of cramped up. But Federico is an important player for us.
Manchester United have gone 8 games without winning. You've beaten them the last 3 occasions. You must feel very confident about this.
Well, can you see confidence look on my face? We've done exceptionally well against United the last 3 fixtures, and we won all 3. And I mean, I think there's a sort of confidence creeping back into the team anyway. But obviously, it's a huge test going to United, especially at Old Trafford. The results have probably been a little bit indifferent the last couple of weeks, but I've seen sort of good highlights of their performance against Chelsea, and I thought they were excellent. It looked to be the United team that has set such high standards. They would get them sort of close to that. They didn't win the game, but the game could easily have swung their way. And it's going to be a tough game on Saturday. We know that, and we're going to have to play exceptionally well again.
You've seen a lot of different United teams, a lot of different United managers. What has gone wrong with this team?
I've got no idea, Gray. I mean, it's not really for me to comment. I mean, and I don't particularly want to comment to fight them up in any way. I've got no idea. I think that when you look at the players that they got, I think they're obviously just going through a little sort of sticky period, and I think the waters were so calm under Sir Alex Ferguson, for want of a better word. I don't know if he would say that he ever sort of worked in calm waters, but at least the club was steady, and they're winning trophies. And there's just been obviously David Moyes come in, didn't quite work out for David. Van Gaal has come in, and again, I think it's just people, having had a manager for such a long time, then all of a sudden there's a couple of changes, and it's bound to have an effect on the club.
We're not far off, obviously, the transfer window opening. Have you been actively involved in possible comings and goings at the club?
I've inquired about it. I mean, I think the targets, so I'm told, are probably the same targets that we were talking about probably a couple of months ago. So as far as I'm concerned, it's the same people that we are talking about. And I think here when our scouts, I think that they're in charge of that operation. I will, don't say I'll have a say in it, but certainly I'll know shortly, which are those targets. Which ones we are likely to bring in, if any.
Any interest in Patrick Bamford?
Patrick's a good player. I mean, we watched him on Saturday, but as far as I know, I don't think there's been, any inquiries to bring him into the club.
What are your priorities position-wise? Are you looking for a centre forward?
I think we need to score more goals. Whether we can find that from within, obviously Eder coming back will give us a different equation. But yeah, I mean, it's when you've got to look at goals for column, it is a problem. Not necessarily the strikers to blame for that. I mean, it's maybe that we need to sort of produce a better quality, which I've been saying for a better quality service into the front men. But you'd think that certainly our lack of goals at the moment, we seem to have stopped it at one end. We're not 3 clean sheets on the trot. So obviously, for us to win games, we have to score goals, and we have to improve that department.
Just lastly from me, Alan, your captain has been very influential the last couple of games. How much of an influence, how important will he be in pulling you clear in the weeks ahead?
Yeah, well, again, you talk about Jonjo. I mean, I think Ash was probably little bit, he should be disappointed with his form, leading up to the last couple of games, but certainly the last 4 games, and certainly last Monday, he was immense. And Yeah, I mean, Ash, like a lot of the senior players, the players who have been at the club for quite a while, then they're going to have a huge influence between now and the end of the season. And I think Alan Pardew singled him out, and he was a rock. He was, you talk about warriors in a game. Then Ash was a warrior last Monday, and obviously we need him to produce that now between now and the rest of the season.
Alan, you touched on Ashley's form there. He seems quite sort of symbolic of Swansea's turnaround in the last 4 games. What exactly do you put that down to?
I honestly don't know. I think I think at some stage, people obviously will differ from. I think with Ash, I think his levels of consistency he's been so high for us for God knows how many seasons now. And I think when he slips below that, I think it becomes really noticeable. And probably his performance, he was exceptional, obviously, on Monday. But we've almost come to expect that level from Ash. And when he dips below that, then I think it becomes very, very noticeable. I just think that he's found his form in many ways. I mean, I'd like to be able to say that I've worked the magic wand on him, but I think it's more the fact that he's he has found a little bit of form, and as I say, we'll certainly will need him between now and the rest of the season.
And for the team in general, what do you think has sort of aided the form of the last 4 games? Is it just perhaps a few fresh ideas just to freshen things up after a difficult period?
Yeah, possibly so. I mean, I think I said before, that I think it's all a bit of a mystery, really, why we had struggled. I mean, even Alan Pardew, said before the game, he said, I don't think anybody in the Premier League ever expected us to be in the position that we are in. They expect us to be top of the table, challenging like Palace for possibly European places. That's other people, saying this, and I think that we've all found it a little bit of a mystery, really. But I think we've got to ignore what's gone on in the past and just concentrate on the now. And certainly the performances and the results have picked up. But I think I would have hoped that would have happened anyway. But no, I'd love to say that some magnificent coaching or something like that. But I think it's just the realisation that the players just dawned on them that they can play and they are capable of getting results and playing some good football.
We're at the halfway point now of the season. The table's taking its form, at both ends. What do you make of the relegation scrap? And I guess you must be faithful that Swansea can get themselves out of it.
Yeah, I think I've always thought that we were capable anyway. But it's going to be tight, obviously. I mean, Aston Villa have got an awful lot of work to do. Certainly not going to write them off yet. And there's a cluster of clubs below that. There's probably another 5 or 6 clubs, any 2 of which could go down. We're in that cluster, but it's our job to make sure that if we can carry on the way that we've been playing and picking up points, then hopefully as the conference grows, then we will be out of trouble. But it's going to be obviously I've always said if you're around this position at Christmas time, usually at the end of the season you tend to be there or thereabouts. But we're just hoping that we can pull clear.
You touched on Man United's form earlier. Is this a good time perhaps to play them in your current situation and theirs?
I don't know if it's ever a good time to play Manchester United, to be fair. But you can argue both ways. The fact that they showed a big response on Monday, and they'll be determined. They need to win. They've gone winless for quite a few games now, and I think that there's been a lack of goals with them, which has probably been our problem. So, could be a classic on Saturday. It could be real belter end-to-end stuff. But no, we've got to go there. We've got to perform. We're obviously aware of United's strengths, but we have to be bold as well, and we have to play our football and show the same spirit that we've shown the last couple of weeks.
And just finally, from me on the transfer front, you mentioned that you'd have some input perhaps when it comes to the January signings. Have you been made aware of what kind of funds the club would have to play with in January? Would they have to be sales?
No, I haven't really. I'd love to be able to say, even if I knew, I probably wouldn't be allowed to say. But no, I've got no idea. I think that there are funds available, obviously. And the list of players is the same sort of players that were. It's obviously you don't go into the January window, in the last week or so, with a list of players. This has been done months ago, almost probably since the season started. As soon as the last window shut, you're almost looking into January for possible signings. So I think they just work off the list of the names that have been there for a while, and hopefully we can find, if it's possible to bring somebody in, hopefully we can find the right one.
Alan, you're being very modest in saying that you're not putting it down to great coaching, the fact that there's been something of a resurgence, but it's got to be down to something, and the coaching's got to have played a part. So I mean, what sort of a coach are you? Are you a carrot man? Are you a stick man? Are you a go out and do what you need to do, boys, express yourself?
I'm hardly a stick man, am I? No, I think I think you just talk to the players, and you try to encourage and to try and bring the best out of them. And even simple things, we were talking about the number of goals we'd conceded from crosses, and rather than, it's almost stop it at source. Then I think I was quoted one of our analysts I think we had something like a 20%, only a 20% success rate in stopping crosses. And the last couple of games, that's gone up to 50% or 50-odd%. So instead of 1 in 5 crosses, or rather 4 out of 5 crosses are coming into the box, now we're only, we have 2 crosses, we block 1. So, we've cut the number of crosses down. The block tackles in the box, I think that's jumped up. That's almost doubled as well. So even sometimes just by, almost throwing them a challenge that, we have to stop crosses, we have to make more blocks, then, the players responded to it. So it's not exactly work you've done on the training ground. It's just something, it's certainly not a throwaway line, but it's really a challenge to the players, can you do better?
And, they really have responded. There seems to be a sense of momentum building up now. I know you don't want to overstate that at the moment, you're just being sort of careful with it, but also a number of them have come out this week and it's, given you and Dave a huge vote of confidence, said they would really like you in place for the rest of the season. So something right is happening there, something, the sort of synergy between you and the players, something's going on there, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, you've read the same comments, and yeah, I mean, it's nice to know that. Obviously, I think the acid test is do the players respond, to whichever methods you adopt, and you'd say at the moment that the players have taken on board what we're trying to ask them to do, and probably more importantly that we get results from it, and I think that the people then will carry on listening when the results are coming. I guess the test would be if you lose a couple of games, but I think the important thing for us at the moment is that even though we've had to battle, the games have all been different. The 4 games. Man City was always going to be a difficult game up there, and maybe it was almost an easy game to start with. But then the West Ham game, we showed a lot of confidence in keeping the ball. West Brom was a battle. We didn't really show as much football as we can, but we showed a different side. And obviously on Monday, it was another game again with the amount of changes that we played, that we made. So every game has been different, but as I say, we always have to get back to the fact that we have to get back and start playing football and passing the ball around. The last 2 have been a bit scrappy, but sometimes that is what you need as well. It's great to play good football, but sometimes you have to battle and scrap and fight and whatever it is. I told him the West Brom game, I think it was, we have to find a way to win, and not all about playing football, but if we're going to get out of trouble, that will have to be our formula.